One of the biggest problems we have right now as a nation and as a people is the fact that we have too many people that live paycheck to paycheck. And I know for a lot of people, it's not by choice, it's because they just don't earn enough money to keep up with the cost of living. Others, it's because of financial negligence and just irresponsibility. But regardless of the reason, it doesn't really matter, because one thing's for sure is that with this many people living paycheck to paycheck, it's actually really bad for the economy. And I found a good story giving a breakdown of why that is. So I want to go over this with everybody today, because I don't think a lot of people realize just how many people live paycheck to paycheck or what type of impact this actually has on the broader economy. Right at this moment, as we speak, about 65% of working Americans say they're pretty much paycheck to paycheck almost all the time. That's pretty horrendous. And about 30% of households report that they run out of money at the end of every month, while 35% say they don't have money left at the end of most months. So basically, it's like on and off. Like some months maybe I'll get lucky and some months I won't. It's kind of like where it is for a lot of people. And it's sad, guys. It's sad that it's coming down to this, and the problem's just getting worse. And also, one quick side note is money isn't always the answer to the problems with this either, because one of the fastest growing groups of people that are living paycheck to paycheck are people that make 6 figures a year. So earning more money isn't necessarily the cure to living paycheck to paycheck without having some sort of financial discipline or intelligence beyond that. But let's take a look at what some of the economic impacts are, because the longer that people live paycheck to paycheck, it creates problems in their own household in terms of how much debt they accumulate. It determines whether or not that person's ever going to be able to retire or not. It also determines how much somebody can actually spend on extracurricular activities outside of necessities. First, let's break this down by income. If you earn $50,000 a year or less, 78% of Americans say that they're living paycheck to paycheck, guys, which is unbelievable, because not that long ago, it seemed like earning 50 grand a year was a pretty good salary. And today, 51% of Americans who say they make $100,000 a year say they still run out of money at the end of every month. How wild is that? In case anybody's wondering where I am today, I am down in Coral Gables. I don't think I've ever shot a video down here for you guys, so something new today. I'll make sure to do one in one of the neighborhoods here too, but right now we're walking near downtown Coral Gables. Now, one of the main reasons that they say people end up living paycheck to paycheck isn't because they don't make enough money, but because the cash buffer that they need every month tends to be bigger than they anticipated. Now, this is something I actually talk about all the time when it comes to owning a home, because that's one thing a lot of people don't anticipate is all the extra expenses that are going to come on top of your monthly payment. And so this seems to be more of a budgeting problem and an awareness problem more than anything, more than an income problem. People are not setting aside the right amount of cash for unexpected expenses related to life in general and to their home. Now, one thing, like I mentioned before, that we keep hearing, which is kind of getting old, but let's just go over it because it's an official stat that is related to this, is the savings rate, okay? And according to the San Francisco Fed, Americans accumulated $2.1 trillion in excess savings during the pandemic. And as of June of 2023, only about 190 billion of that remained. And as of the end of September, it is estimated that all of that money is now completely gone. So you're talking about, in the span of about 3 years, people burned through about $2.1 trillion, guys. Obviously, our federal government is no shining example of how to budget or spend money. These guys are awful, and people are following in their footsteps, unfortunately, and putting their own selves and their own lives on the path to financial ruin, just like the US government. But this has a lot of side effects. And one of the side effects is that because all these savings are gone, which obviously for many people they've been gone probably for quite some time, this is where it starts to have further reaching effects on the economy. Because now that all that money is gone, that's why you're starting to see more and more people go into credit card debt, and we have seen the credit card debt balloon past $1 trillion And that's the first kind of real side effect this has on the economy, because the more that debt grows, then it makes it harder for people to obtain credit, because banks are tightening up lending standards already due to the banking crisis that we saw earlier in the year. And then when things like this start happening, it just makes it even worse. But also, when people are running out of money like this and living off of credit, it also means they're not putting anything aside for their future. And according to Vanguard's research, they say that the vast majority of Americans are not on track to meet their spending needs in retirement, and that's after including their expected Social Security income and their savings. And obviously the lower income families are more affected by this than higher income, but even people that make a lot of money don't save well for retirement either. And apparently Social Security checks are a huge source of income, especially for lower income families in retirement. In fact, it can be up to 62% of a low-income family's expected income during retirement. That's a big difference when you compare that to a higher income family where it's only about 18% of their expected income during retirement. Now, the funny thing about this is they say that Social Security is inflation protected because they give you cost of living adjustments almost every year. But the funny thing about that is you could probably ask anybody who's living mainly off of Social Security right now and ask them if the cost of living adjustments they've been getting have been enough to account for the recent inflation that we have. Because the funny thing is you only get adjusted based on what the official inflation numbers are, not what they actually are. And so the cost of living adjustments that people get are far below where they probably need to be. As of right now, Social Security benefits are supposed to rise by 3.2% for 2024, which would raise the average payment by about $57 a month, guys. Is $57 a month going to make or break your monthly budget? I don't know. Maybe it will help pay your cell phone bill. I don't know what it will do for most people, but that's all you're getting in many cases. Here's where things really start to kick in and why people living paycheck to paycheck really starts to hit the economy. It's because of consumer spending, okay? According to this story, the consumer spending is 70% of GDP, but I've seen other reports where it's 85%. So what's the real number? I don't know. It's probably somewhere in the middle, but rest assured it's probably at least 75%. So the vast majority of our GDP is made up of people just out spending money, guys, just right around here, going to restaurants, going to stores, buying things. And so the less people end up spending because they're living paycheck to paycheck, eventually they're gonna run out of available credit on credit cards and also not have any money left in the bank. So it's inevitable that this situation comes to a close at some point down the line. And when it does, it's gonna have a tremendous impact on GDP, which over the long run slows down the nation's growth because it's all based on spending and debt. And also, it's likely to throw us into a recession, guys, because when people don't spend money, it means that businesses and places that collect your money are not making any money, and people that employ you also aren't making money, therefore have to perform layoffs and creates all sorts of problems with businesses. And so you can kind of start to see the ripple effect that all of these things have. All just because people don't have enough money, are not able to budget the appropriate amount of money every single month to live, and therefore ends up having an impact on all of us. Because when things start to escalate and enough people start running out of money, that's when you're going to start seeing the real impact that it's going to have on the economy. But then the question always becomes is when or if there's going to be the next government stimulus program, or what's going to happen with that. Because it seems like one thing that we can say for sure is that this administration in particular doesn't want things to crash. They'll do anything they can right now to keep things going. They'll give people stimulus checks. They put out all these different home buyer grants and programs to keep the housing market afloat. And they're trying to make it easy for people to borrow against their retirement accounts. Pretty much any tool they have available, they're doing right now. Believe it or not, in my 16 years in Miami, I've never actually been down here. It's like kind of like a little Lincoln Road area they have down in Coral Gables. My first time here, guys. That's the cool thing about doing these videos, is just going to new places, especially here where I live, and just taking you with me. Speaking of down payment assistance programs, in order for people to actually afford the median price home right now, you need to be making about 120 grand a year, first of all, and your monthly payment, after putting 20% down and having an 8% mortgage rate would be a little over $3,000 a month, which is absolutely crazy right now that that's the state of affairs, but this is where we're at. And so this is why you're seeing the government do all sorts of things to try and prop this up, like we just talked about. In fact, Freddie Mac just came out with a brand new tool for people to use in order to get down payment assistance with their home. Now, this is something that's going to be available in 48 out of 50 states. I'm assuming they're excluding Hawaii and Alaska, as they get excluded from a lot of things. It's basically a portal or a website that you can go and punch in some information, and it will connect potential home buyers and lenders with more than 2,500 different down payment assistance programs that are available today. Now, this new tool is called DPA1. I'll link it below for you guys for anybody who wants to use this, because obviously if you're going to be buying a home, this could be helpful to you. But the whole purpose of this is to bring visibility to these programs that are out there available that a lot of people don't know about and might not be utilizing. So basically, this is the nudge or the incentive telling people, hey, why don't you get out there and use this right now? The housing market's in shambles. We need more people to buy. And obviously that has a huge effect on the economy. Like we've talked about before, when people don't buy, it makes it so that people aren't earning commissions. It makes it so people aren't buying furniture. People aren't paying for moving services or storage services. It has an entire ripple effect on things, just like living paycheck to paycheck does. Once again, guys, my biggest issue with all these programs are that most of them are targeted at people who are lower income and trying to force those people into the market today. Now, obviously, there's always going to be a group of people that can benefit tremendously from this, and if it wasn't for this leg up, then they might never be able to own a home. And I've heard from some of you guys in the comments telling me that that was actually the case for you, and now thanks to a leg up that you got 20 or 30 years ago, now you own your home outright. That's great. You know, I'm really happy to hear that. But my concern is that, you know, what people did 20 or 30 years ago is nowhere near the mentality that people have today. And I'm afraid that that's just not what people are going to do right now. Because right now, everybody is looking at the way people are living and saying, hey, I can just take on as many expenses and as many debts as I possibly can, as long as I can make the payment. And that's not the right way to look at finance, but unfortunately, that's what people are being taught. Even young people are being taught this through osmosis by watching their parents do it, watching our government do it, and thinking that this is the right thing to do. And so what I'm trying to do is just peel back the curtain a little bit and show you guys that that's actually not the way to live. If you want to have a successful life and if you want to have, you know, money in the future, this is not the way, guys. But this definitely can help people get into homes. In fact, it says that 96% of folks who took advantage of the down payment assistance program in Texas, because this story came out of Texas, they would not have been able to become a homeowner if they did not take advantage of a down payment assistance program. And it makes a difference between somebody becoming a homeowner or not. Now, first of all, don't get the wrong idea. I think people should take advantage of these programs if it's being offered to you, but under a couple of different circumstances. Number one, realize the catches and caveats that come with these programs, guys, because pretty much all of them that are available, for the most part, come with some sort of catch. Like the one that's available in Miami Beach, where I live, for example, they'll give you, you know, 20, 25, even 30 grand, I think, up in some cases, depending on your income and what you qualify for, as down payment assistance to be able to buy something. But the catch is that you need to hang on to the property for at least 15 years, and you can't rent it during that time. So you need to live in that property for the next 15 years, and if you don't do that for whatever reason, then they can make you pay the money back. And so that's a huge catch that most people might not think about when they go for one of these down payment assistance programs. And I'm here to let you know that a lot of them comes with strings attached like this. There might be a few of them out there when you look at this portal that might give you just totally free money. Maybe they'll just say, you know what, you qualify for $3,000 of just free grant money. Take it, guys. But only do this if you are planning on buying anyways, because I don't want people to go out there and get the wrong idea and say, well, I heard about this in Michael's video, so now I'm going to buy a home because these programs are available. No. I only want people who are already planning on buying that could use all the help they could get to go ahead and do this and take advantage of it. I don't want people who aren't financially ready to be homeowners to jump on this bandwagon just because these programs are available. But like I said, I will have this linked in the description below for anybody who wants to utilize that. This is not something paid. This isn't a sponsorship. I don't get a commission for this, guys. This is just something I'm doing for you and letting you know it's available. But the reality is, the federal government is absolutely the worst example of how to run your finances, because it was just reported that the US budget deficit right now is at $1.7 trillion in fiscal 2023. And so imagine running your life like this, guys. Imagine running it so that way you never have any money. Everything that you have, everything that you have to spend is borrowed because you never have enough money. And luckily, the government has the unlimited printing press that they can do and use this, but us as individuals don't. So by using their example and living like this, you're gonna run out of money first, I guarantee you. And this is so bad that the budget deficit is up 23% from a year ago, guys, up 320 billion. And these numbers seem like they mean nothing to them anymore, apparently. And they're blaming this on the fact that revenues fell 9%, which equals about 457 billion in 2023. They're saying that the sharp revenue decrease was due to lower individual income tax receipts as capital gains realizations fell and rising interest rates that cut the amount of money the Federal Reserve deposited at the Treasury. Because of their own doings, because of their own shenanigans, this is happening. And this could spell disaster for all of us, because it might mean they might want to collect more taxes sooner than later. And just the amount of spending that needs to happen to pay for the debt also went up 23% in 1 year. And guess what? If the Biden student loan forgiveness thing would have happened, it would be so much higher. The deficit would be far higher if the Supreme Court didn't shoot this down. And the other thing is, this deficit is the third highest deficit on record after 2020 and 2021. So literally in the last 3 years, we've had the highest deficits ever due to all of this pandemic madness, guys. It is just baffling what's going on with this. Meanwhile, you got Biden asking for another $100 billion in aid for Ukraine and Israel, and it's just like it never ends, guys. We're just throwing our money at all these other countries, trying to always constantly play the world police. And I know I've heard the other side of argument from people like, listen, they're our allies, and if we don't defend them, then it looks bad for us, and what does it say about us and our country and this and that? Like, yeah, I get it, guys, but we've been helping allies in other countries for way too long now, and when do they ever send us money? That's what I want to know. When was the last time any of these places sent us money? I think it's time to start, taking care of our own house before we continue trying to keep everybody else afloat before we go down ourselves. That's just my opinion on it. Meanwhile, you got Jerome Powell talking about how the path that we're on right now is completely unsustainable and we'll have to get off that path sooner than later. And that's referring to the amount of debt payments that the US has to make under these circumstances right now. It'd just be a joke, guys, to see if that actually happens. They're running this country into the ground, and that's where things are headed if they don't turn it around soon. And we still have the potential for more bank failures to come because all their old bonds that they're hanging on to are basically worthless, and that's why you're seeing this humongous historical crash in bond prices, because nobody wants them at the yields that they were returning just a couple years ago. And if the government continues with this deficit spending like we just talked about, the bond yields are likely to continue to go higher, which is going to put more financial risk on the banking system and other people who own these bonds that they invested in. Also, what does this do? It drives inflation higher. It means more loans and essentially more bonds need to be created to pay for all of it. It's the never-ending debt spiral is what it is. So all of this could likely be the source of new taxes coming down the line sooner than later that we're all gonna have to pay for the mistakes that they made yesterday. So how fair is that? But the thing is, if you know about this stuff, then it can help you prepare. It can make you realize the mistakes that other people, including our government, are making. That way you don't have to make them yourself, and hopefully be able to ride this out a lot better than people who are totally oblivious to all of it. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.